the 10th of June, 2026. The world is once again watching the Middle East with fear. The crisis between the United States and Iran has entered a dangerous new phase. President Donald Trump has warned Iran that America is ready to strike very hard. But this time, the warning comes after a serious military incident near one of the most important places on Earth, the Strait of Hormuz. A narrow passage where oil, warships, and global power all meet. And now, one question is shaking the world. Is this only another military crisis, or are we watching the beginning of a wider war? To understand this moment, we must understand Iran. Iran is not just another country in the Middle East. It has a powerful army, missile systems, drones, regional allies, and influence across Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, and the Gulf. For decades, Iran and the United States have been enemies. They have fought through sanctions, proxy wars, cyber attacks, nuclear negotiations, and military threats. But direct confrontation between them has always been the nightmare scenario. Because if the United States and Iran enter open war, the whole region can burn. This crisis did not begin today. For years, Washington has accused Tehran of trying to build nuclear weapons. Iran has always said its nuclear program is for peaceful purposes. But the United States, Israel, and their allies have never trusted that claim. Sanctions were imposed, negotiations began, and every time diplomacy failed, military pressure increased. The result was a region living under constant tension, a region where one wrong move could trigger something much bigger. In 2025, the situation became even more dangerous. The United States and Israel increased pressure on Iran. Military strikes, threats, and negotiations continued side by side. Each side claimed it wanted peace, but each side also prepared for war. Iran strengthened its missile defenses. The United States moved forces closer to the Gulf. Israel watched every Iranian move. And the Strait of Hormuz became the center of the crisis. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the most important oil routes in the world. Every day, tankers pass through this narrow waterway carrying energy that feeds global markets. If Hormuz is blocked, attacked, or turned into a war zone, the consequences are immediate. Oil prices can rise, shipping routes can collapse, insurance costs can explode, and ordinary people around the world can feel the impact at petrol stations, in food prices, and in the cost of living. That is why this crisis is not only about America and Iran, it is about the entire world. Then came the incident that changed everything. Reports say a U.S. Army Apache helicopter was down near the Strait of Hormuz. Trump blamed Iran. The helicopter crew was reported safe, but the political damage was already done. For Washington, this was not just an accident. It was seen as a direct attack on American forces. And when an American military aircraft is hit in such a sensitive area, the pressure to respond becomes almost impossible to ignore. After the helicopter incident, Trump's message became much stronger. He said the United States would attack Iran very hard if Tehran did not move toward a deal. He accused Iran of taking too long. He said Iran was playing games, and he made clear that America was ready to use force again. This was the moment when the crisis moved from threat to action, because words from the White House can move markets, but missiles can move history. After the Apache incident, U.S. forces launched strikes against Iranian targets. The strikes were described as a response to Iranian aggression. The reported targets included military infrastructure near the Strait of Hormuz, such as radar and air defense systems. Washington called it self-defense, Iran called it aggression, and the world called it escalation. Because every strike creates a new question. Will the other side stop or strike back harder? Iran now faces a dangerous choice. If Tehran does nothing, it may look weak. If Tehran responds too strongly, it could trigger a wider war with the United States. Reports say Iran has targeted U.S. military positions in the region, including bases connected to American allies in the Gulf and nearby countries. Some missiles and drones may be intercepted. Some may miss their targets, but the message is clear. Iran wants to show that it can answer, and that is where the danger grows. The Middle East is already full of open wounds. Israel and Iran remain enemies. Hezbollah in Lebanon is watching. The Houthis in Yemen have threatened shipping routes before. U.S. bases are spread across the Gulf. And countries like Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates all have something to lose if this war spreads. One missile landing in the wrong place could force another country into the conflict. One attack on a tanker could shake the global economy. One death of a soldier could change the political calculation overnight. The economic fear is already visible. When the Strait of Hormuz becomes unstable, oil prices react fast. Markets become nervous. Airlines, shipping companies, energy traders, and governments all start preparing for the worst. This is why a military crisis in the Gulf does not stay in the Gulf. It reaches Europe, it reaches America, it reaches Asia, it reaches every country that depends on energy, trade, and stability. War in Hormuz is not local. It is global. Even now, diplomacy has not completely disappeared. Mediators are still trying to stop the situation from exploding. Countries like Qatar and other regional players are trying to keep communication open, but diplomacy becomes much harder when missiles are flying. Every leader must look strong, every side must avoid humiliation, and every negotiation becomes a race against time. Peace is still possible, but the window is narrowing. For Trump, this is a moment of power and risk. If he attacks too little, critics may say he looks weak. If he attacks too much, he may be blamed for starting a wider war. He wants Iran to accept a deal, but he also wants to show that the United States will not tolerate attacks on its forces. That is why his language is so aggressive. He is using military pressure to force Iran back to the table. But the danger is simple. Pressure can bring a deal, or pressure can cause an explosion. Iran is also trapped. Its leaders cannot appear weak in front of their people, their military, or their allies. But they also know that a full war with the United States could be devastating. Iran can strike US bases. It can threaten ships. It can activate allied groups. It can pressure Israel. But every move carries danger. Because the more Iran responds, the more the United States may strike back. And the more America strikes, the harder it becomes for Iran to stop. Many people are asking the same question. Is this the beginning of World War III? For now, the answer is not certain. A direct US-Iran war would be extremely dangerous. But it does not automatically mean world war. For it to become a global conflict, other major powers would need to become directly involved. Russia, China, NATO, Israel, Gulf states. That is the nightmare scenario. Right now, the crisis is regional, but it has global consequences. And if leaders lose control, regional wars can become international wars very quickly. There are three possible paths from here. The first path is limited escalation. The United States strikes. Iran responds carefully. Then both sides return to negotiations. This is the best-case scenario. The second path is repeated retaliation. America hits Iran. Iran hits US bases. America hits back again. This becomes a cycle of fire. Third path is regional war. Iranian allies join in. Israel gets involved. Shipping routes are attacked. Oil markets panic. US bases come under more pressure. And the Middle East enters one of its most dangerous moments in modern history. The next hours and days are critical. Every statement matters. Every military movement matters. Every missile launch matters. Every diplomatic phone call matters. Because in a crisis like this, war can grow from a single decision. A commander gives an order. A radar detects a threat. A missile is launched. A base is hit. A leader responds. And suddenly, the world is no longer watching a crisis. It is watching a war. So tonight, the world waits. Trump says Iran must pay a price. Iran says it will not surrender. The United States says it is defending its forces. Iran says it is defending its sovereignty. And between them lies the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow line between oil and fire, between pressure and war, between diplomacy and disaster. This story is still developing. Details may change as new information is confirmed. But one thing is already clear. The crisis between the United States and Iran is no longer just a warning. It is a test. A test of power, a test of restraint, and a test of whether world leaders can stop a regional fire before it becomes something far bigger. Stay informed. Stay careful. Because in moments like this, history can change in a single night.